Okay, hi. I had to delete some stuff off my phone. I hope I can record this. But anyway, I want to pick up on where I left off at yesterday, talking about the ego. And the last thing I was saying was that the ego is tied to the heart. Oh, when I got this head on, because I started taking my braids out. Not that y'all care, but anyway. So the ego is directly tied to the heart. And I was talking about that yesterday. Now, in the Bible, Jesus said, "For of the abundance of the heart, his mouth speaketh." So, what he's saying is that when you have things that you're holding on to in your heart, it comes out of your mouth. That's why it doesn't make sense to say that, oh, just because I'm talking about it doesn't mean that I care about it. It's very, very likely that you do kind of care about it because it wouldn't be coming out of your mouth if you didn't. Because the word lego, which is el ego, means to say, to speak, to call, or to tell. So with that in mind, moving along to the next portion of it, I wanted to talk about how ego is tied to this, how ego is tied to sex, which is being tied to the heart, and is also tied to building our DNA and in creation. So Bernadette came on a post and she said the ego looks like 360, and that is right. Because when you turn that E around, that E turns into a number three. So that's how you get 360, right? That means the ego is also feminine because 360 is a circle, and the circles represent the feminine energy. What on your body is a circle? Your mouth. Your mouth is directly tied to the ego. Again, because the word lego, lego, means to say, to speak, or to call. So in the sense of, looking at symbols, the zero functions as the feminine aspect, the one functions as the masculine aspect, and when you put those two together, you have made a letter Q, because that line is penetrating the zero. Okay, so that's representing, you could say that that's representing sex. So Q is the word Q, CUE, which means to call for something. It means to tell something, come on, it's your turn to cue it. Okay, or what's up next in the queue. So Q means to call, and I'm writing this down so that you can see it. And ego also means to call. Now, I also said that ego is the heart. I said that yesterday. So if you missed that, go back to the other video. So I also said that ego is the heart. So what does that tell me? That tells me that that letter Q is directly tied to the heart. Oh my God. My fault. I thought my battery was about to go dead. Okay. So that tells me that the letter Q, you see how I got that line showing you that the letter Q is tied to the heart, which means that when you're having sex, because that's the symbol for having sex, in my mind anyway, that it's tied to the heart, which means it's tied to the ego. Okay. Another way to confirm that, the heart is directly tied to the ego is because or to say that the ego functions through the sex organs, is to say that, I've made posts about the clitoris and that how the clitoris is actually shaped like a symbolical heart. Okay, well, the penis is a reflection or a mirror of the clitoris. So that tells you right there that the sex organs are directly tied to the heart, which is tied to the ego. And again, just to shed some more light on how I know that, the masculine energy is all about what you see physically outside of you. All you have to do is look at a man's body and compare it to a female's body. Mother Nature tells us everything right in our face. Is we just have to think about it, because a man's body, his sex organ is outside of him. And so that tells me that masculine energy functions in the physical realm. Okay, but getting back to, tying it all into sex. I'm going to actually explain how I think, in the Bible, it also tells us that the sex organ is functioning through sex. Um, John in the Bible is Yan, because a J is also a Y. So that will be the yoni. John the Baptist I'm talking about is functioning as the yoni. Okay. Now when John said, I baptize you with water, well, the word there for I was ego. So it's saying that the ego functioning through the yoni or through John is baptizing Jesus in water. Well, what is Jesus? Jesus is the ego or the son. Okay. If you think about a penis penetrating a vagina in water or wetness, then the vagina is baptizing, the yoni is baptizing the penis. That's how I know that, the ego and everything, ego representing that one and that zero, and the one penetrating that zero is directly tied to sex. So when you're having sex, you're functioning within the ego and your heart is tied to that. Okay. So, so the next part I wanted to talk about was so since that has to do with sex, well then sex is creation. That's how we get here. That's how we, create and build our DNA and things like that. So the ego will be tied into that. Now, again, looking at the word Lego, right? Lego, which would be L means God or nature. So then Lego would be the God of nature. No, I'm sorry. The nature of the ego or the God ego. But I'm going to say Lego would be the nature of the ego. Okay. In our world, what are Legos? I swear you hear this dog barking. I just put him outside before I recorded this. He only does it because he's like a baby. He wants attention. Men do that too. I want your attention. Okay, anyway. So Legos, I had to put that in there. Legos are building blocks, right? Little toy building blocks, little plastic toy building blocks. So when I looked up Legos in Wikipedia just to kind of see what it said, how it described Legos was as a construction set, interlocking plastic bricks. It says Lego pieces of all varieties constitute a universal system. This is what they're describing Legos as. So basically, Legos are being used to construct a universal system. Well, geez, doesn't that sound like, a 3D realm, or, constructing a 3D reality? It says 6 pieces of Legos of 2x4 bricks can be combined in 915,103,765 ways. That's very similar to how DNA works. I believe there's 4 main, I don't know what the word is for how DNA is built, but how they interlock and connect, they can connect in like millions of different ways. Okay. So Legos is actually kind of showing us how DNA works. The word Lego is confirming in the toys, the Lego is confirming how DNA is built through the ego. Okay. And the ego is the nature of speaking as well, right? So you're talking about sound and vibration and stuff like that, which would tie back to Jesus, because Jesus is called the Son of God, and son also means sound in Latin. Okay. Also, Legos are called bricks, right? Bricks are also called tiles. What kind of tiles? Reptiles or repeat tiles. I talked about the word repeat in the last video, how repeat is masculine. Okay, but the reptiles, being the serpent, or the 2 serpents going around that pole, masculine and feminine energy going around that pole, called Isis. That's how you get Gene Isis. Because the reptiles or the, serpent means so many things, but it definitely has to do with building genes or building genetics. The other thing I wanted to say too is that, okay, so the ego is called the I, right? The letter I, which is a line, but the word I, EYE, Okay, we're going to get into the feminine aspect of the ego as well. The word I, E-Y-E, is also the word Eve. Okay? Because, and I'm going to show it to you after I write it, that Y is really a V with a tail. You see how I wrote that on the bottom? The I is Eve, but the Y in the middle is a V with a tail on it. So what is that telling you? That's telling you that the word I, because Eve is what? Darkness, right? So that's telling you that the word I is a dark tail. Because that Eve is a dark tail, or I is a dark tail. You see how I did that? Because Eve has Y in it, and Y is a V with a tail on it. Okay, so what is a dark tale or a dark story? Well, it talks about that in the Bible. That would be an enigma or a parable or a riddle, a metaphor. The Bible talks about dark sentences, and it talks about how God is going to speak to you in parables and stuff like that. I made a post that said you are a metaphor. You yourself are a metaphor. Your entire existence, everything around you, your whole 3D experience, or your whole reality, which reality is really Ra'el. It's Ra'el. Your entire experience is a metaphor, a parable, an analogy, allegory, allegory, which has ego smack dead in the middle of it, an allegory. So the feminine aspect of the I would be the dark tale. That would be you trying to figure out everything about yourself. But Mother Nature is giving it to you in the form of a metaphor. Okay? Reason why a lot of people can't figure it out is because they physically just exist in the physical ego, the masculine aspect of it, and they only focus on what they physically see instead of thinking way, way, way deeper into what they see. I analyze everything that comes into my life. I don't care if I'm having a meeting with my boss, and this has happened in real life, and my boss has told me I was a magician in the middle of a sentence. That was for me. Why he said, I don't even remember why he said it, but I'm just using that for an example. He said, oh, you know, you're a magician, Kamisha. Well, I pay attention to in what time it was that he said that, what day it was that he said it, and what context that he said it, what was the sentence that he said it in. That's how my mind works. That is the dark tale, because people are coming along and giving you all types of clues about your life. That's why, I break people's names down, by the way. That also helps you learn it. All right, in these next 2 minutes, I'm just going to go through a couple of things that, was said in the Bible that use the word ego. And that also confirmed that the ego doesn't only function in the lower self like people say that it does. Okay. Jesus said, I will something, 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 something. Well, the word I was ego. So ego has to do with your willpower and what you desire to do and what you will and won't do. When Jesus said, it is I, be not afraid. The word there for I was ego. So he was telling you not to be afraid of the ego, which is yourself. He was telling you not to be afraid of yourself. When Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, the word there for I was ego. Okay. I am the root and offspring of David and the bright and morning star. The word there was ego. John 8:50, Jesus is talking and he says, I do not seek my own glory. The word there was ego. So that tells you that the ego, under certain circumstances, does not seek its own glory. It does not function and seek its own glory like people think that it does. And another one, John 8:45, Jesus said, I'll tell you the truth. The word there was for I was ego. So it's saying that the ego tells you the truth. When the ego is functioning under certain circumstances, whether it be the feminine or the aspect or the masculine or the feminine, or whether it's trying to get you to remember or even forget, let go of some things, it could actually be helping you. Okay, so it's not just your lower self. I'm going to end this here. Love y'all. Peace.